Mental triggers. Gustavo Ferreira. When we talk about communication, sales, and influence, most people assume it's simply about choosing the right words, delivering a good pitch, or having a solid product. But in reality, the secret of persuasion goes far beyond that. There is a psychological engineering operating behind the scenes of every decision we make. In Mental Triggers, Gustavo Ferreira reveals how we can activate these hidden forces in people's minds, using a powerful combination of strategy, emotion, and logic to create messages so irresistible that customers practically lead themselves to say yes. And this isn't just about copywriting or online sales. It's a complete methodology that applies to any format. Videos, lectures, negotiations, relationships, and even personal branding. In the end, what really sells is not the product. It's the buyer's mind. The first crucial point Gustavo presents is ethos, something Aristotle explained centuries ago. People buy from those they know, like, and trust. Sustainable sales don't exist without credibility. When a client sees that you have authority, observes your results, and hears others speaking highly of you, their brain begins to relax and becomes open to persuasion. Without this foundation of trust, any sales technique will sound forced, uncomfortable, and even suspicious. Building authority is like placing a crown of iron on your head. You present yourself as someone strong, trustworthy, experienced, and able to guide your audience toward what they want. Beyond authority, the power of specificity comes into play. The human brain is attracted to concrete details. When you say, "I'll show you a weight loss method," the promise sounds generic. But if you say, "I'll show you 5 practical steps to lose 5 kilos in 30 days, you instantly trigger curiosity and boost the listener's confidence. Specificity creates clarity, tangibility, and trust. That's why, to paint store, you trust the bucket labeled 25 liters of ivory white more than someone simply saying, "It's a good amount of light-colored paint." The more details you provide, the more authority you project. Another decisive factor in building influence is social proof. Humans instinctively seek reference points in others' behavior to make decisions. It's the full restaurant versus the empty one. When we see a crowded place, we automatically conclude it must be good. That's why testimonials, case studies, reviews, and genuine client feedback are powerful tools in persuasion. It's not enough to say your product is good. Let others say it for you. And the more genuine, detailed, and specific these testimonials are, the stronger their effect. But even with authority, specificity, and social proof, many people still need an extra push to take action. That's where scarcity comes in. The fear of losing something that might not be available for long is one of humanity's oldest and most powerful motivators. When you create an environment where access to a product or service is limited, people feel the urgent need to act. Last, spots available, exclusive group, limited time offer. These phrases aren't just marketing tactics. They're emotional triggers that spark nearly automatic urgency. When scarcity is combined with urgency, the effect becomes even stronger. When someone sees a countdown timer or knows there are only a few hours left to secure a benefit, the brain understands it must act fast. The greater the sense of urgency, the less room there is for hesitation and procrastination. The brain would rather decide quickly than risk losing something valuable. However, for all of these persuasion elements to work, it's essential to present concrete proof. People don't just buy promises. They need to believe it works. Showing real results, before and after photos, proven numbers, well-documented case studies, and success stories greatly strengthen the persuasion process. Proving what you claim solidifies trust. Now we enter one of the most emotional aspects of persuasion, ethos trigger. Activating the right emotions. Humans don't make decisions with logic. They decide with their hearts and then use logic to justify. That's why in car sales, clients aren't just buying a vehicle. They're buying freedom, status, achievement, pleasure, admiration. They're buying the dream of being in control. Therefore, when crafting your message, you must define: what emotion do I want my client to feel? Desire, security, overcoming, pride, peace of mind? Without emotion, there is no true sale. Within this emotional, manipulation, imagination is a tremendously powerful resource. Our brains don't clearly distinguish between reality and vividly imagined scenarios. When you guide someone to visualize a scene, walking barefoot on a beach, feeling the sun on their skin, hearing the waves, you generate real physical reactions in the body. The more vivid and sensory the image created in the client's mind, the stronger their emotional connection to your offer. Leading the client to mentally experience what they could achieve is one of the most effective forms of persuasion. If you're finding value in this deep dive into mental triggers, go ahead and hit the like button and subscribe right now. That way, you won't miss the next level of strategies that will completely transform your communication skills and your business growth. Let's keep unlocking the secrets of persuasion together. To capture the attention of an audience overwhelmed with information, we use the pattern interrupt trigger. In the middle of monotonous social media routines and predictable stimuli, a message that breaks the norm, surprises, or presents a new angle forces the mind to pay attention. Phrases like, "Discover the second most important thing to save your marriage," or "This woman couldn't believe what happened after she tried this," are simple yet highly effective examples of pattern interrupt applied to curiosity. And, speaking of curiosity, it remains one of the most underestimated engines in communication. When we create an open expectation in the client's mind, they feel compelled to keep listening until they receive the answer. The mind hates gaps. That's why open questions, future revelations, teasers, and anticipation are incredibly powerful tools to keep your audience engaged until the very end. But there's an even more primal force: fear. Fear of losing, of failing, of missing a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Fear is the ultimate trigger for immediate action. A classic example would be, read this before it's too late. Properly applied fear doesn't paralyze. It accelerates decision-making. But be careful. You must always provide a solution immediately after presenting the threat, so you don't create panic, but rather drive the person toward taking action. Within this emotional logic lies the pain versus pleasure principle. Humans will always prioritize avoiding pain over seeking pleasure. It's our survival instinct. In persuasive messaging, highlighting what the client will lose if they don't act now is often even more persuasive than showing what they'll gain. For example, if you don't apply this method, you'll keep losing money every month without realizing. It sounds far more urgent than just saying, "Make more money with this method." Diving even deeper into the world of mental triggers, we reach one of the most decisive aspects of persuasion: repetition. The human brain learns and solidifies beliefs through constant repetition of messages. When we hear the same statement multiple times, we start to accept it as truth, even unconsciously. That's why, in persuasive communication, it's crucial to continuously reinforce the core promise and main benefit of what you're offering. Repetition doesn't mean redundancy. It's about embedding the message into the client's mind. Within this mental architecture, one of the most powerful triggers emerges: reciprocity. When someone receives value without having to pay up front, a natural desire to give back is triggered. This social force has been molded by thousands of years of human interaction. When you provide useful content, practical tips, and valuable information for free, the client feels inclined to reciprocate that help, often making a purchase almost as a form of gratitude. This is the core principle behind the content marketing strategies that many businesses successfully apply today. But for this initial value delivery to have impact, it's also necessary to manage the rhythm of communication. A persuasive message should flow naturally. It can't have breaks or stumble. Every sentence must lead smoothly to the next, like a hypnotic, fluid conversation. That's why reviewing and reading your material out loud is a fundamental tool to identify bumps and Fine-tune cadence. A well-crafted rhythm holds the client's attention and guides them to the closing point. Now, we enter one of the most emotionally charged fields of communication: exclusivity. People place a higher value on what few others have access to. When a client feels like they are receiving something unique, reserved for a select group, their sense of importance and belonging increases dramatically. This can be implemented through closed clubs, limited groups, VIP access, exclusive bonuses, or private content only available within your ecosystem. To heighten emotional engagement even more, we introduce the common enemy. Every hero's story involves an antagonist. When you identify a clear villain, whether it's the industry, the financial system, dishonest competitors, or even limiting beliefs, you create a shared mission with the client. They're not just buying something, they're joining a cause, a movement, a resistance against what threatens them. After stirring emotions, Logos steps in. The logic that justifies the purchase. The client buys emotionally, but always needs a rational explanation afterward. That's why providing concrete data, studies, charts, numbers, and logical arguments helps the rational brain validate the emotionally made decision. This way, the client feels comfortable, secure, and confident that they've made the right choice. Within this logical structure, we apply the simplified choice trigger. When presented with too many options, the consumer's mind becomes paralyzed. An excess of alternatives creates confusion, fear of making the wrong choice, and doubt. Therefore, offering just a few options, ideally only 2 or even 1, makes the decision easier. The brain prefers the simple, quick path as it consumes less energy. Another extremely powerful tool is contrast. When presenting an offer, we create a comparison anchor that elevates the perceived value of our proposal. For example, saying that a program could cost $3,000 but is being offered for $800 instantly makes the brain see the advantage and feel like it's a great deal. Contrast can also be applied by comparing the client's current situation to the one they could achieve by adopting your solution. Within this logical field, we also use the if-then structure. It's a nearly hypnotic way of presenting arguments. If you apply this method, then your results will multiply within X weeks. The brain loves hypothetical logic because it builds a comfortable cause and effect sequence. The more often we use this structure, the more the client mentally visualizes success as a natural consequence of the purchase decision. Justification is another decisive trigger. Every offer needs a clear reason behind its price or existence. It's not enough to say, "My product costs $1,000. You need to justify, "This price reflects limited spots, personal mentoring, and everything I've learned in the past 10 years of hands-on experience." The justification validates the value and naturally dissolves internal resistance. Yet even after both emotional and logical persuasion, many people still experience that final fear before committing. That's where the guarantee and risk reversal trigger comes in. The more security you offer the client, the fewer objections remain. Generous guarantees, long refund periods, public commitments of ongoing support. These are powerful tools to break down the last mental barriers before the sale. Finally, we recognize the power of simplicity. All persuasive communication must be clear, direct, and easy to understand. If something is too complex to explain in a few minutes, it will likely be hard to sell. The simpler your message, the more accessible your offer becomes. Clarity isn't a sign of superficiality, it's a sign of mastery and respect for your client's mind. Optimized insights. Key teachings, repetition, solidifies beliefs in the client's mind. The core message must be hammered in. Reciprocity triggers a natural desire to give back, often resulting in a purchase. Smooth rhythm keeps the client hypnotized throughout the message. Exclusivity creates a sense of privilege and belonging. Identifying a common enemy strengthens emotional bonds with the client. Logos provides rational justification for the emotional purchase. Simplifying choices eliminates paralysis and accelerates decision-making. Contrast instantly elevates the perceived value of your offer. The if-then structure helps the client visualize inevitable success. Justifications naturally dissolve objections. Strong guarantees eliminate the client's final fears. Extreme simplicity maximizes conversion rates. As we approach the core of this strategic journey, we enter one of the most powerful centers of persuasive communication: storytelling. There is no tool more complete for activating multiple mental triggers simultaneously and organically than a well-told story. While numbers convince the rational mind, stories capture the heart, the subconscious, and create instant identification. Storytelling has allowed humans to learn, evolve, transmit culture, and shape beliefs for thousands of years. Gustavo Ferreira explains that listing benefits and arguments is not enough. A well-crafted story activates, all at once, curiosity, empathy, contrast, commitment, emotion, logic, and even urgency. The client begins to mentally visualize the problem, the journey, and the solution, placing themselves in the protagonist's shoes and projecting their own success into the story's outcome. A persuasive story follows a structure. Introduce the character, present their challenge, expose the peak of tension, and reveal the solution that transformed their reality. It's like narrating the discovery of a method, product, or breakthrough that came almost by accident, making the offer irresistible because it carries an element of destiny, unique discovery, and unveiled truth. Within this narrative framework, the powerful trigger of polarization also emerges. Taking a clear, sometimes even controversial position repels those who aren't aligned and strongly attracts those who share your vision. People prefer to follow leaders who are firm, opinionated, and unapologetically positioned. The clearer you define who you are and what you stand for, the more solid your audience becomes. Those who try to please everyone ultimately engage no one. The combination of these triggers creates what Gustavo calls the king's center, the complete construction of your ultimate authority. When you master the technique, share authentic stories, take a firm stand, deliver real results, and build consistent social proof, your image of authority becomes practically unshakable. You no longer sell, people want to buy from you. Another complementary element is the strategic use of personalization. When your message feels tailor-made for a specific client, the emotional connection grows exponentially. It's not just about segmenting your audience, but about speaking directly to the individual, using the word you, addressing their specific pains, obstacles, and desired outcomes. The more personalized the message, the stronger the identification effect. The client begins to think, this message is for me. This feeling of being understood is so powerful that it dismantles the natural sales resistance. The brain interprets personalization as proof that the solution truly applies to their situation. At the final stage of this persuasive process, we reach the ultimate level, the transformation trigger. The client isn't simply purchasing a product, they're acquiring a new identity. A weight loss program doesn't just sell weight reduction, it sells self-esteem, confidence, and a renewed self-image. A sales course doesn't just teach techniques, it delivers a professional who negotiates with confidence, certainty, and dominance. Every great offer must clearly present what personal transformation the client will experience after completing the journey. By combining all the triggers covered so far, authority, specificity, social proof, scarcity, urgency, proof, emotions, stories, polarization, personalization, logic, and transformation, you build messages so powerful that clients feel like it would be a mistake not to buy. They're not just being convinced, they're being emotionally guided toward the decision point. What's most impressive is that, when applied ethically and responsibly, this system of mental triggers doesn't just generate a sale, it creates long-term relationships, a loyal audience, a strong brand, and a business that grows organically over time. Optimized insights. Key teachings. Storytelling connects emotion, logic, and identification into one irresistible narrative. Polarization. filters your audience and attracts highly aligned followers. The King Center transforms you into an almost unchallengeable authority. Personalization deepens emotional connection and breaks sales resistance. Identification makes the client think, "This was made specifically for me." Transformation sells a new identity, not just a product. Combined triggers create nearly irresistible communications. When applied ethically, this system builds long-lasting, scalable businesses. If you've made it this far, you now fully understand the true power of mental triggers. You are no longer simply learning isolated techniques. You now hold a complete map to build communications that don't just sell, but create lasting impact, authority, and real transformation in the lives of your audience. But most importantly, always remember that true power lies in how you use this knowledge to generate real value, help people, and build solid, ethical businesses. When applied responsibly, these mental triggers are not manipulative tools. They're vehicles for delivering real solutions to people who need them. The world is flooded with products, services, and information. What truly sets you apart is your ability to connect deeply with your audience, understanding their fears, their desires, and guiding them toward their best version of themselves. Every trigger you've learned, from building authority to emotional, storytelling, to personalization, to risk reversal, works in perfect harmony when your intent is sincere and your offer genuinely serves your audience. Persuasion is not about pushing people. It's about leading them through clarity and confidence toward decisions that improve their lives. The most successful communicators, entrepreneurs, and influencers understand that mental triggers aren't shortcuts. They're long-term assets that build brands, communities, and movements. When you apply these principles consistently, your audience doesn't just buy. They follow you, trust you, and remain loyal for years to come. Optimized final insights. The complete system. Mental triggers are not isolated tactics. They form a complete system of persuasion. Ethical application transforms sales into long-term relationships. The true power lies in guiding people toward valuable decisions that improve their lives. Authority, logic, emotion, storytelling, personalization, and transformation work together to build trust. Mastering these triggers allows you to create movements, not just sales. Consistency in applying these principles leads to scalable, sustainable business growth. If this journey into the world of mental triggers has opened your eyes to a new level of influence and communication, don't stop here. Hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications, and leave a like, because we're just getting started. There's a world of high-performance strategies ahead that can elevate your business, your message, and your personal growth. This is the place where knowledge turns into real, optimized results.